Michelle, complete the sentence. The woman I look up to most is.
The woman I look up to most is somebody who's strong-willed. And I also admire those people who contribute to others without getting anything in return. Like, oh my gosh, so selfless. Those are the people that I really, really admire.
Anybody in particular?
There are many people like Yuri Kochiyama that we learned last year. Like, oh my gosh, I didn't know, but she's amazing.
Welcome to season 2, episode 2 of the Japanese America podcast, the podcast where we explore the blend of Japanese and American cultures, histories, and traditions, and all the quirky, wonderful things in between. My name is Koji, and I'm one of your hosts.
And I'm Michelle, and I'm the other host. Koji, how have you been doing?
I've been good. We just got back from a baseball trip to Arizona.
For your son?
My son's team had too much pull time and wasn't able to win on the last day, which was very disappointing.
Oh, then you're the coach.
I'm one of the coaches. Yeah, I'm the assistant
Wow.
coach. So
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
it was very disappointing for us not to be able to win. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I'm the usual. I just got my car washed yesterday, and it rained today. Wow.
That's not good. You should have known it's supposed to rain on Wednesday and Thursday of this week.
I forgot. I don't know anything.
And today we're honoring Women's History Month by talking about a group of amazing Japanese American women.
We know that the 442nd and 100th and MIS get all the publicity, but Koji, did you know that there was a group of Japanese American women who served during the World War II?
I'm actually the last person you should ask because I did know that.
Oh, wow.
During World War II, Japanese American Nisei women served in the U.S. military, primarily in the Women's Army Corps, or WAC, and Army Nurses Corps, the ANC, contributing significantly to the war effort as nurses, clerks, typists, drivers, and linguists, despite facing challenges due to their ethnicity and the concentration camps, many of whose families were forced into during the war.
This month, we'll be hearing from Grace Obata-Amemiya, who Janum was lucky enough to bring in for a public program in 2013 about the WAC. She also sat down for an oral history interview, from which we'll share some clips.
Before we get into it, let's give a brief overview of Grace. Grace's parents came from Japan and she was born in Vacaville, California. She was a nursing student when she and her family were sent to the Gila concentration camp in Arizona. While there, she worked as a nurse's assistant. She finished her schooling in Minnesota and eventually trained in the U.S. in an Army hospital in Clinton, Iowa.
In the first clip, Grace was asked if she always wanted to be a nurse.
Well, about when I was about 10 years old, took care of my dolls and things. And I don't know, that was what I wanted to be, was public health nurse,
Here, Grace tells what it was like for her when she heard the news of Pearl Harbor.
Sunday morning, and Dot McHenry, and she was just, she lived in San Francisco, and she and her family just was so friendly, and we did many things together and all. So we were studying her in the morning, and of course there's no television in those days, so we were listening to the radio and the music, and music stopped, and they said that Pearl Harbor had happened. And it was such a awesome news. And Dot is still living in Wisconsin, and she always teases me when I talk. She's still she retired, but anyway, she always teases me, about and the fact that yes, our parents came from Japan, but we were American citizens, and as far as we were concerned, then Japan became an enemy.
Grace recounts what it was like having to get rid of her things before leaving for camp.
Well, it was really something because, like I say, we were very meager means, and we, of course, didn't ever own a house. We always had to rent. But the collection of things that you have and the things that their parents brought from Japan, and living in a small community where school, memorabilias and everything. And then the Methodist Church had said that if we wanted to store things we could upstairs because that would be empty. But while we were gone, why, it's all vandalized. So, but and then it was just we had to, we'd go to take things out to the dumpsters, and people would be standing around waiting to pick up things that they felt that they could use and things. And we gave away things to friends and buddies and children, And then some of my friends, they said that they would store some things for us. Bless them, they did.
Grace went to Turlock, which was an assembly center in Northern California. While there, she worked in a camp hospital. Listen to this clip as she recounts what it was like working at the hospital and what the assembly center was like.
Well, that was county fairgrounds and all. But I worked since I was a student nurse, I worked in the med center. After all, we had accidents, deaths, births, everything, even in the short time that we were there. But of course, when we were in our barracks, also, why, we didn't have any electricity or water. And so privacy, though, quite a bit of things that you missed was your privacy. And you didn't have a bathroom in our barracks.
Grace and her family were eventually moved to Gila River Camp in Arizona, where she continued to work in the hospital. Here she recounts her work while in the camp.
Well, we became we had to take care of the patients, and we had to watch very carefully that, as I said, there was births and deaths and accidents and people who became depressed and all. And then we had some that we had to send to a sanitarium, stuff like that.
Grace left camp, got a housekeeper position in Lake Forest, Illinois for a year until she was eventually accepted into the St. Mary's School of Nursing under the Cadet Nurse Corps program in Rochester, Minnesota. One of the surprising things we found out was that the program was not segregated.
Yes, that was one of the strict orders, and it was not segregated. It was not, they had the schools had to be accepted by public health and all. But that was one of the things that there was no segregation, American Indians and then, like I say, there were over 400 of us. And so that meant that, and then a lot of them came from camp because it was getting out and getting an education,
As Grace mentions, there were 400 Japanese American women in the program. She left Minnesota and continued her training at Chick General Army Hospital in Clinton, Iowa, where she was one of 2 Japanese American nurses who the Army Corps had accepted to train under their supervision at an Army hospital. When asked about what she did there, this is what she said.
Yes, it was like, well, not either they'd been injured or maybe there were even some that were just really, and we found ourselves just realizing, how much we were able to do to help and how much, I hope, made better nurses out of us. You're listening to soldiers who are crying because their wives had divorced them or, but the thing was that these fellas, they needed someone to talk to. They needed someone, and we hope that we helped them. It sure made us realize what our guys were going through and what families were going through who had lost, a member of the family.
Here, Grace tells us about her time off.
And so we had quite a nice social life, and it was always this, well, if I'm working, Ben, so-and-so won't be working, so we can always, they just came down because they knew us, some of the boys, and they were college friends or old friends, and I've got pictures of those in fact, one of the fellows that used to come down, He was my husband.
So that's how
married
you
him,
met.
married him, yeah. No, but seriously, it was truly for us to have a social life, and we picnic and have, just walking or go to the park, and the fellas loved it because they didn't know very many gals up in, near Camp Savage, and so I thought that was real neat.
There were some uncomfortable moments that Grace talked about, but her positive attitude and faith in humanity is clear.
It was very interesting. War ended, and the Army nurse captain called the three of us Nisei girls in and said, the war's ended, and we're getting some patients who are our boys who were in the Bataan March and were prisoners of war in Japan at the Japanese hospitals. And when they come back, and they'll be coming to our hospital, we don't know what their reaction is going to be when they see Asian-faced nurses. And so, she says, you cannot go to work in the morning without an escort. You cannot leave the hospital and come back to the quarters without an escort. Yeah. So, but then it was just really, really awesome, And because some ambulatory patients that we had been taking care of went up to the captain and said, don't worry, we'll be here in the morning to get these nurses to the hospital, and we'll pick them up and also get them back again. And during the day, he says, we're ambulatory, so we'll keep an eye on them and we'll see that they're safe. And it was such a heartwarming experience, and it just was just that these boys had accepted us.
One of our favorite parts of the oral history interview was Grace's wonderful sense of humor.
I had a crazy experience because, my maiden name was Obata, it's Obata. And one of the soldiers said to me, he says, is that an Irish name? And I said, yeah. Mm-hmm. But you look Asian, he said. I said, yeah. I says, but my father was Irish. And I said, that's why it's O''Bata, and my mother was Asian. Therefore, I have the Asian face. How did your dad meet your mom? I'm one of those crazy people, And I said, oh, well, he was an Irish fisherman, and he ended up in Hawaii. And my mother was a school teacher, as she was, and she had gone to Hawaii to teach. And they met and they got married and they came to the United States. So all of us were born here. And, and so after that, he told it to all the soldiers, that were in his war unit. And he said, next thing I hear is not, Miss Obata, our nurse, hey, Irish, So I had more fun with that, because it was just teasing and having, but it was a wonderful, warm experience. The soldiers never treated us with discrimination, and we worked in the arts and crafts with them also, and took care of them for physical therapy. And went out on picnics. We went bowling with them,
And finally, let's hear Grace's outlook on camp and her life.
But Min and I, whenever we spoke and talked about internment and all, we said, they'll say, you can stand there and talk about it and without any bitterness. And Min and I have always said, yes, because it was something that we had no control over. The government thought that was what was right. But of course, they've apologized and all that, but the fact that you can't live with anger and bitterness, you're ruining your own self. And so Min and I felt that by being positive about it and helping the people understand what did happen and that it will never, never happen again, to any group of people.
We are sad to note that Grace passed away in July of 2017 at the age of 96. We invite you to watch her public program on the Japanese American National Museum's YouTube page. Michelle, you listened to the interview. I think you listened to the public program.
I did.
Was there anything that stuck out to you?
Well, many things. Like, oh my gosh, she's not bitter at all. I would be really. I mean, she passed away at the age of 96, but I might be very, very upset forever for what she had to go through. Like, she talked about things that she had to get rid of. And people are waiting by the dumpster for her to put it in a dumpster so she could just pick him and take him home. I was upset the other day. I just closed the garage door down and I went running. And this lady came up to me and said, "Hey, I saw that table in your garage. Are you gonna get rid of it?" I was really upset about that.
Somebody asked you about something that was in your garage?
Yeah. She's
Do you know
like,
this person?
"No, I don't know."
That's weird.
Right? And she was putting her belongings that she doesn't want to get rid of and, in a dumpster, and people are like waiting to grab it. I don't know. It's so I'm upset for her. I'm upset for her belongings. And she is not bitter at all. Like, she sounded like it had to be happen and all these stuff. Like, she wasn't accepted to school because people are not ready for your kind. Like, so upset still. And it didn't happen to me, it happened to Grace. And it's so heartbreaking.
On a similar note, one of the things that stood out to me was when she was talking about the kinds of things that were happening in camp and the kinds of work she was doing. And she talked about how people just couldn't handle it. And then they went to a sanatorium.
Yeah.
In all my life, in all of my studies and reading about the camps, I've never heard about that experience. Like, never heard people going to the camps. I mean, it makes a lot of sense because it's probably a depressing place, I imagine, and it probably wasn't super fun, but I'd never heard of that. But the way she said it was like they couldn't handle things, they got depressed, and then they went to a sanitarium. And I'm like, that sounds really terrible, but she says it in a way that's so, like, it's so matter of fact. That was very like it was very shocking to me to hear that.
Yeah. And also at the other camps, I've seen watchtowers at the Manzanar,
Mhm.
but I didn't really know that there was a guy, pointing a gun at you just in case you cross the fence. But in her interview, she talked about there's a guys on the watchtower, the machine gunners waiting to, shoot you 5 feet from the fence. And you had to live like that. Oh my gosh, that is so. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm so upset 80 years later, but she had to live through that. And it happened in America. And for legal citizens of America, it's so upsetting.
And what's interesting about Gila River? Gila River is actually a Native American reservation. So they were actually put on a reservation. So like it's not even American land technically, it's Native American land. So like even if we wanted to go visit, for example, you've got to go get permission from the tribe to allow you onto the land to go look at whatever's happening. But like
Yeah.
if you listen to her, like it almost sounded like she just was away for a couple of years on like a camp or something. Like a camp is like not like concentration camp, but kind of just like a camp. But one of the things I learned talking to a lot of people who were in camp is that there's two kinds of individuals. There's kind of individual that looks at that experience and thinks it's the worst thing that's ever happened to me and it ruined my life. And then you have people like Grace who are, to me, really amazing, and they look at something that was really terrible because they would admit it's terrible, but they look at it in a way that is not super like it ruined their lives, but it was just a moment in their lives, and there were terrible things that happened there, but that it didn't define who they are. And so I tell my son all the time, when something bad happens, you have two choices, and the one choice is you let it ruin your life, or two, you deal with it, you accept it, and then you move on and you try to make the best of it. And so that's one of the things that hearing Grace talk about it, you just think that it was terrible, obviously, but that it didn't define who she was. It didn't define, like the rest of her life. And I think that that's something that should be really appreciated and looked up to.
Yeah, like shikata ga nai, like there's nothing can't be helped.
Yeah.
And also she says that you can't live with anger and bitterness because you are ruining your own self. And that really hit me deep because, sometimes I get upset about, itty bitty things and it's ruining my life, but a little bit. But like she and all the other Japanese Americans had to go through so much. And many of them, they just didn't let it ruin their lives. And that's amazing.
And one of the things that was super interesting to me was also the fact that it wasn't segregated. And it made me really appreciate that these women were willing to do what it took to help the country. They went to places where there were no Japanese, like, the place she was at, there's only two Japanese American people, and it could have gone really badly. And, and it could have been really bad for her, but she was, so in a lot of ways, she had to be brave and she had to study and work. And luckily, everything worked out for her, obviously. But it just goes to show that we don't talk about women who served in World War II, but these women served, and they served very bravely. And had the war gone on, she would have probably had gone to Europe or another base somewhere. And I thought that was really, it's eye-opening, and I think it's really important that we hear their stories and we recognize that it wasn't just the dudes, but it was also the women as well who served for our country to help the war.
Koji, what kind of nurse would you make? What kind of patient are you?
I would be, I think, a terrible nurse because I have no patience for anybody. Like the moment they started monku or complaining, I would be like, be quiet. I don't want to hear any of this. And what kind of patient? I think I'm a really good patient. I think I'm overly nice and trying to please the doctor or please the nurse a lot. I don't know. What about you? What kind of nurse would you make and what kind of patient are you?
I don't think I'm a nurse material.
Why not?
Because I hate needles. I don't think I could give anybody a shot. And I don't want to clean up after the mess. And I don't want to be a nurse.
What about, are you a good patient?
I'm not a good patient either because I don't like needles. And then I don't like the bills either afterwards. So,
Yeah. Well, in Japan, it's free, right?
well, it's not free, but it's much, much cheaper
I mean,
than
it's cheaper
here.
than America.
Yeah. So one time I had a CAT scan, like some kind of scan at the emergency room, and that was like $11,000 with $1,800 out of pocket. But I told that to my mom, and my mom's like, "Oh, it's like 4,000 yens, like $30 in Japan." We are deeply grateful for your continued support and enthusiasm for the Japanese America podcast. Your engagement, feedback, and passion inspire us to keep sharing stories and perspectives that bridge cultures and bring people together.
Thank you for being part of our community and for tuning in to each episode. We're excited to continue this journey with you, exploring the rich and diverse tapestry of Japanese American experience. Stay tuned for more exciting content and don't hesitate to reach out to us with your thoughts and ideas.
This podcast is a program of the Japanese American National Museum. The museum's mission is to promote understanding and appreciation of America's ethnic and cultural diversity by sharing the Japanese American experience.
Please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast. And be sure to join us next month when we talk baseball, finally.
Yay, baseball, finally.
All right, thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.